Hello, everyone. Welcome to the NFL Week 14 edition of the Player Prop Countdown, where I rank my top 10 player props for this week's NFL action. I did not have a video or audio version of the Player Prop Countdown last week because I was traveling. So I hope I did have a written version that was up on Sports Illustrated. I hope none of you read that or tailed those plays, because last week for the Player Prop Countdown was the worst player prop week that I've had this season. Almost every week I've been 5-5. If it's a good week, it's 4-6, or if it's a good week, it's 6-4. If it's a bad week, it's 4-6. Last week I went 3-7 for minus 4.37 units. That now brings my season-to-date record on player props to 61, 68, and 1 for minus 7.8 units. So significantly worse than I'm doing on my sides and totals. This is the first season I decided to bet player props for the NFL season. I think I need to, listen, we still got 5 weeks left. I could, I'd go 10-0 and get that all back this week. Most likely, I'll probably at this point finish in the red with my player props. This is a little bit of a learning experience. I certainly, would be more upset if I was having a terrible road to 272, which is still not good, but it's at least been better than player props. But it has been a learning experience with this, my first time betting player props in the NFL. I think next year, I'm going to keep doing these on Wednesday night, Thursday morning. I think next year, one of the things that I need to do, because I ran into this issue making my picks for week 14 tonight, and it's been an issue I've had every week. I think I might need to wait an extra day, because the full list of player props are not available on Wednesday night. Next year, I might just have to skip, give note a prop for Thursday Night Football and release the player props episode Friday morning. Perhaps, because there were several that I wanted to bet this week, and sportsbooks just don't have props up for either those games or sometimes those players. Specifically, there are some niche players. There's a second string running back or third string running back I wanted to bet on. Oh, the Chargers second string behind Gus Edwards. Like, for example, I wanted to take his over rushing yards. Sportsbooks just don't have his rushing yards out for the game yet. Or, they may not at all, but with him being the second guy on the Chargers, I assume by Sunday night they will. There are some other examples tonight. Nick Chubb rushing yards. I wanted to take the under on Nick Chubb rushing yards. Not available. Jerome Ford rushing yards. Not available. I am betting on Jerome Ford a little bit of a different way, but that, I think, has been the biggest issue that I've run into. No excuses. I mean, I've still given out the picks, and they have not done well this season for player props. But this was a learning experience this year, and I think it wasn't a complete disaster so far, so I think I am going to continue doing them moving forward, but I might have to delay them next year until at least Thursday night / Friday morning, and maybe it's player prop, maybe it's a weekend thing. Maybe it's a Saturday thing. But regardless, we march on. I got 10 locked in for week 14. And hey, like I said, we still got lots of football left. We're 61, 68, 1 for minus 7.8 units. I have 2 big touchdown scores this week. I hit both of those, and I can take a good chunk of this, of this record, get it back, kind of moving in the right direction. So, other than that, usually these shows in the intro, I like to talk about something else. I don't really have anything to talk about. I'm at war with the Chiefs fans. If you haven't listened to Road to 272 yet this week, go back and listen to that. Other than that, I got nothing to talk about. Christmas is coming up. That's fun. Eh? All right. So we may as well just get right into it. I like to keep these player prop countdowns a little bit more quick anyways. So we will start with the number 10 ranked player prop for week 14. I'm going with Mac Jones, under 202.5 pass yards of minus 115. This is maybe the worst game on the entire NFL season so far, Jaguars against Titans. And I have a bet locked in on both quarterbacks. I'll get to the Will Levis one later, but for Mac Jones, by the way, that just reminded me of another player prop I wanted to take for Will Levis, just not available for some reason on Wednesday night yet. I wanted to take Will Levis over on his longest completion. Not available. So I went Will Levis different way, but that's not number 10. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Number 10 is Mac Jones, under 202.5 pass yards, a minus 115. He looked strong against the Texans last week when he replaced an injured Trevor Lawrence, but as a whole, I think we need to recognize that he has been horrific when he is subbed in for the Jaguars. Amongst 42 quarterbacks who have played at least 100 snaps this season, Mac Jones ranks 39th out of 42 in EPA plus CPOE composite, 40th in adjusted EPA per play. So he has been a bottom 5, bottom 3 quarterback, and he's also averaging a measly 5.6 yards per pass attempt. Now he has to take on a Titans defense that allows the second fewest yards per pass attempt this season at 6, only 6 yards per throw. Also fewest overall passing yards per game at 171.8. We took Jaden Daniels under his passing yards total last week against the Titans. We're going to take Mac Jones under his passing yards against the Titans this week. So number 10 ranked player prop, Mac Jones under 202.5 pass yards at minus 115. Believe it or not, I trashed on my Falcons in the road to 272, but I'm going to bet on Kirk Cousins this week, but not necessarily for him to have a good game. I'm going to bet on Kirk Cousins to have a busy game. I will take the Falcons quarterback over 34.5 pass attempts at minus 114 against his former team, the Vikings, on Sunday. I talked about this in the road to 272, that the Vikings have the number 1 rush defense, in my opinion, in the NFL. They lead the NFL in opponent rush EPA and opponent rush success rate, 3rd in opponent yards per carry. So based on that, I think the Falcons, whether it's by design heading into the game or whether they're forced to do it during the game, the Falcons will have to throw the ball more than run the ball. Not only should it be their game plan if they want to attack the weakness of the Vikings defense, which is their secondary. Also, it is a game script factor because I think the Vikings are going to win this game by 30 points. So I think they're going to get down early, and the Falcons will have to abandon the run game pretty early, I think, in the first half, if not the first quarter, which is going to cause Kirk Cousins to have to throw the ball early and often in this game. My concern is that Kirk Cousins either gets hurt because the Vikings are going to sack him, I think, probably 6 times in this game, or he's so bad early on, we see Michael Penix in the second half. Or it could be just such a big blowout that they put Michael Penix in. By the way, I do have a final score prediction for that game. My final score prediction for the Vikings against the Falcons is Vikings 31, Falcons 13. He's going to be the final score in that game. This is how down bad I am about my Falcons at this point in the season. I'm predicting them to lose by 28 points on Sunday. It's going to be ugly. If you want to hear me talk about that game more, you can listen to the road to 272. But I do think Cousins is going to have to throw the ball quite a bit in this game. I'll take him over 34.5 pass attempts at minus 114. I'm going to take a sip of soda water here, some peach-flavored soda water. How about that? Drinking soda. Here's a pro tip that I didn't listen to. Don't drink soda water when you're recording. It's going to make you burp. Regardless, I'm drinking soda water while recording, so I'm going to try not to burp in your guys' ear, but if I do, I apologize. I said I have 2 dark horse touchdown scores this week. Is this because I really like 2 of them, or is this because I'm trying desperately to, kind of get back in the green with my player props? Little A, little B. First one is Juwan Johnson of the New Orleans Saints to score a touchdown against the New York Giants at plus 240. This is mostly a bet on the fact that Taysom Hill is now out for the Saints. That means they will have to look for in a different direction in the red zone because he's kind of their target in several different ways when they get down to the red zone. And we saw that already last week when he left the game against the Rams. We saw some of that workload go towards Juwan Johnson. 7 total targets last week against the Rams, 5 receptions, 36 yards. I think he already has 2 touchdowns this season, but I think with Hill being out, I think if there's one benefactor on the Saints offense, it is Juwan Johnson. I think he's going to be a short yardage target for the Saints, which is big for red zone opportunities. So plus 240 for Juwan Johnson. And actually, let me double check that because I actually locked in this bet earlier today because I was writing an article in SI about touchdown scores this week. And only Bet365 had this. It was the only odds that were available, so I had to use Bet365. Let me see if there's a sportsbook that has better odds now, Juwan Johnson. It's too late. My bet is locked in for all intents and purposes. You can bet him at plus 325 at Caesars. Almost. That's stupid. I wish I just waited till tonight. For my record, I'll get him at plus 240, but for touchdowns, I always like to give out the sportsbook that has the best odds. Right now, it's Caesars at plus 325. I think Juwan Johnson will score for the Saints against the Giants. Let's also remember that, the Saints now, no Taysom Hill, no Rashid Shaheed, no Chris Olave. Like, it's going to be Marquez Valdes-Scantling for deep throws, and then Juwan Johnson for short and medium throws, and then Alvin Kamara for, dump-offs at the line of scrimmage. That's basically the three guys they got to throw to at this point. So I'll take him to score. I mentioned a Will Levis prop bet. I wanted to do Will Levis longest completion over whatever the number is set at, unless it was a crazy number, because the Jaguars give up, obviously, a ton of pass yards and a ton of deep throws. Sportsbooks were not offering that prop bet as of tonight. So if you're listening to this a little bit later in the week, you might want to play that instead. But I'm just going to go Will Levis over 208.5 pass yards for pretty much exactly that same reason. Jaguars secondary has been the worst in the NFL this season. They're dead last in the league in opponent dropback EPA, opponent dropback success rate, and opponent yards per pass attempt. There's very few situations where a team ranks either first in all three of those categories, both EPA, success rate, and kind of yards per X, or last in all three of those. The Jaguars are one of the rare situations where they actually rank dead last in all three of those areas: opponent dropback EPA, opponent dropback success rate, and opponent yards per pass attempt. So if anyone's, a 208.5 pass yards total for any quarterback taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars is way too low. The reason why I do originally like longest completion for Will Levis is because he doesn't complete a ton of passes. He kind of sucks. So kind of racking up total yards for a game makes me a little nervous, but he does like to toss some deep bombs. So if that's the case, and you know what? Now that I'm saying that, I actually don't have a number to back that up. That's an eye test. I feel like Will Levis throws a bunch of deep bombs. Maybe I'm just thinking of that 198-yard touchdown. Regardless, no matter how you want to bet it, and I would do this early because I bet you that these numbers are going to go up as we get closer to Sunday's kickoff, I would bet the over on some kind of Will Levis yards, longest completion, some type of prop bet for Will Levis against the Jaguars defense on Sunday. Thursday night football, I do have a bet on the Thursday night football game here between the Packers and the Lions. I'm going to take Jordan Love to go under 52.5 pass yards. I didn't love it a little bit earlier in the week. I actually looked at this because of the Thursday night game. The prop bets were available a little bit earlier. I looked at this on Tuesday afternoon, and it was like 242 or 244. It's about 8 to 10 yards lower than it is now. Now that it's up to 252, and actually if you wait till Thursday night, I bet you this number is going to get even bigger. I would wait probably till right before kickoff and then pound the under. I bet you it's probably going to settle at, if I were to guess, 256, maybe. Usually with unders, in my experience this year, it has been more beneficial to wait until kickoff. I obviously can't do that with the rules that I follow for the player prop countdown, but it is something for you, the bettor, to keep in mind. He has a tough matchup ahead of him on Thursday night against the Lions. Detroit secondary has been extremely good lately. First in opponent dropback EPA and opponent dropback success rate since week 6. They're also allowing 6.3 yards per pass attempt. That's the 8th best mark in the NFL. So their secondary has been absolutely fantastic this season, especially of late. And I think the Packers, their game plan should be to stick to the run game. Now, what does make me nervous is the Lions are favored. I'm betting on the Lions to cover the spread. If the Lions get up big, we're going to see Jordan Love have to take to the air a lot. Garbage time garbage time drive has screwed me a few times this season. Wouldn't be surprised if it screws me again here, but I have enough faith in the Lions secondary. I think once it got across the 250 mark, I think that's a little high for Jordan Love against this Lions defense. So I'll take Jordan Love under 252.5 pass yards. All right, I bet on this player last week on Thursday. It did not hit. I'm going to go back to the well this week. His total is a little bit lower this time. It's going to be Tyrone Tracy of the Giants to go over 58.5 rush yards. The Giants got to start giving this guy the ball. That is my concern with this bet because he played a lot of snaps last week against the Cowboys. He played 73% of snaps. The Giants were facing one of the worst run defenses in the NFL in the Cowboys, and he still only got 9 carries. And they opted to instead throw the ball with Drew Lock, which I don't really understand. Just run the fucking ball, please, Giants. You got bums at quarterback. Just run run the fucking ball. You got a rookie running back who's averaging 5 yards per carry. You're once again facing a terrible run defense. The Saints second last in both opponent rush EPA and opponent rush success rate. Just run the fucking ball. Also second last in opponent yards per carry, giving up 5.1 yards per rush. You have a running back. You have a guy who's averaging 5 yards a carry. You don't have a quarterback. Run the fucking ball, guys. Tyrone Tracy getting 9 carries in each of his last 2 games is a travesty. Fire Brian Daboll. If I was an offensive coordinator or a head coach, and my rookie running back, 4th rounder out of Purdue, was averaging 5 yards per carry, and we were facing some of the worst run defenses the NFL has to offer, and he has 9 carries? What are we doing? So this might be a stupid bet because he might just refuse to give him the ball again. But I mean, you got to think these coaches are going to figure some shit out. I'll take Tyrone Tracy over 58.5 rush yards, minus 120. My other touchdown score for Sunday. I mentioned this player earlier. I wanted to take the over on his rushing yards. I could not because sportsbooks, once again, weren't offering it for some reason on Wednesday night. But I also really actually like him to score a touchdown. It is Jerome Ford of the Cleveland Browns. I don't know if you guys watched the Browns game this past week. I assume you did. It as Monday Night Football, but the Nick Chubb was on the sideline a lot. And I don't think that was for an injury unless I missed something. I think the coaches are seeing Nick Chubb and they're seeing that he is averaging 3 yards a carry. That's not 3.8. That's not 3.6. That's 3.0 yards per carry since he returned to the lineup. That's bad. Like if you have a running back that's averaging 3 yards a carry, you simply can't play him. And I think the Browns might have figured that out last week. Because he only played 34% of snaps against the Broncos. Jerome Ford played 66% of snaps against the Broncos. Jerome Ford is averaging 1.8 more yards per carry than Nick Chubb. That's almost 2 more yards per carry. It would simply be malpractice to continue to hand the ball the majority of the time to Nick Chubb, and I think the Browns coaches have figured that out. So if that's the case, you are getting a team's... If Jerome Ford gets 66% of snaps again this week, you are getting a team's primary running back at almost 4-1 odds to score a touchdown. Seems like a pretty good bet. Let me see Nick Chubb's odds. Now, I know Nick Chubb did score. It was on a catch this past week, but... yeah, so you can bet on Nick Chubb at plus 160, a guy who played 33% of snaps last week, or you can bet on the other running back who played 66% of snaps and bet on him at plus 375. Actually, FanDuel didn't have touchdown odds when I made these picks an hour ago because, of course, he's now plus 450 at FanDuel. I can't change my bet. It's really, this week is really nailing home the fact I should not be doing the player rock countdown on Wednesday night. Yeah, if you're listening to this, it's probably still available at the best number at FanDuel. Plus 450 at FanDuel. I got it at Caesars at plus 375, plus 360 at DraftKings. Still, my point stands. You can get the primary running back if things go like they did on Monday night, and I assume they will because I believe it has to do with Nick Chubb's production. You can get a team's primary running back at almost 4-1 odds to score. Seems like a pretty good bet to me. Seems like plus EV, if you ask me. All right, number 3 player prop of the week. We're going Sunday Night Football. We're going against the most fraudulent team in the NFL, the Kansas City Chiefs. Give me Justin Herbert over 227.5 pass yards at minus 115. The Chiefs' pass defense has been a bottom 10 unit the past handful of weeks. In fact, since week 6, they ranked 26th in opponent dropback EPA, 25th in opponent dropback success rate. And the Chargers have started to throw the ball more and more and more as the season goes on. Early in the season, they were throwing the ball less than 50% of the time. Now their season average is 53% of the time, and their average over their last 3 games is 63% of the time. So they have gone from a run-first team to now a pass-first team, and I think the injury to J.K. Dobbins is only going to make that even more lopsided towards the pass. So we got a team that has been throwing the ball a ton, taking on a team whose secondary has struggled recently, and the Chiefs are favored, so if you follow a game script and the Chiefs do get up, the Chargers will have to throw the ball late in the game, which can always help out these stats as well. So I'll go Justin Herbert over 227.5 pass yards at -115. One of the worst bets, actually, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to call it a terrible bet. I kind of stand by it. It didn't hit. Last week was Saquon Barkley to go under his rushing yards total against the Ravens. The Ravens have an elite run defense. I thought it was a good time to sell high on Barkley. He still rushed for over 100. That was dumb of me. So I will not be fading Barkley. I'll now get back on the Saquon Barkley train. His rush total's all the way up at 112.5 yards against the Panthers. I will take the over on that, because the Panthers rank 31st in opponent rush EPA, dead last in opponent rush success rate. They're also giving up 4.8 yards per carry. So they have one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. The Eagles run the ball 5% more than any other team in the league, and Barkley has rushed at least 22 times in 5 of their last 6 games. So he's going to get the carries. He's already averaging more than this per game, and he's going up against a bottom 3 run defense in the NFL. And, I mean, this is not, I can't say this for fact, but Nick Sirianni feels to me like a guy who, if one of his players is in the MVP mix, he's going to do everything he can to pad his stats. I don't have anything to back that up. It's just kind of, it feels like Nick Sirianni is like, okay, let's get Barkley really in the MVP mix. Let's get him 250 against the Panthers. It's possible. I'll take Saquon Barkley over 112.5 rush yards. It seems like a high total, but I still think it's a few yards short. My number 1 player prop for the Week 14 slate, my bestie, Justin Jefferson, who I spoke to before the season started. I'm going to take him to go over 81.5 receiving yards against my Atlanta Falcons. Why? Because my Falcons suck. I'm fed up with them. I'm fed up with their defense. Let me quickly check Mike Hughes' injury status. He has missed the last 2 games, and that has been devastating for the Falcons. This report says he's trending in the right direction, so he may get back to the game this week, but I still don't necessarily think it's going to be enough. Receivers have had big games against the Falcons all season. They're dead last in the NFL in opponent completion percentage, and now they're going to take on probably the best receiver that they've had to face this season in Justin Jefferson. I mean, Ladd McConkey went for 117 yards last week. If he can do that, Jefferson can reach his season average, because he's still averaging, Justin Jefferson's averaging 86.5 receiving yards per game this season, but his receiving yards total is just 81.5, 5 yards shorter against the Falcons' stinky secondary. So, I mean, if I think the Vikings are going to score 38 points or whatever I said earlier, 31 points, Justin Jefferson's likely going to have a pretty big game. If he's matched up against A.J. Terrell, he will burn A.J. Terrell up and down the field. It's going to get ugly. So Justin Jefferson over 81.5 receiving yards, -117. Okay, let me quickly recap there. Top 10 player prop bets for Week 14. Mac Jones under 202.5 pass yards, -115. Kirk Cousins over 34.5 pass attempts, -114. Number 8 is Juwan Johnson anytime touchdown, +240. Number 7 is Will Levis over 208.5 pass yards, a -115. Number 6 is Jordan Love under 252.5 pass yards, a -115. Number 5, Tyrone Tracy Jr. of the Giants over 58.5 rush yards, -120. Number 4 is Jerome Ford of the Browns, anytime touchdown, +375. Number 3 is Justin Herbert over 227.5 pass yards, -115. Number 2 is Saquon Barkley over 112.5 rush yards, -115. And number 1 is Justin Jefferson over 81.5 receiving yards, -117 against the Falcons. Be sure to subscribe to the Bacon Bets podcast on YouTube. I've been sent, some of you sent me your Spotify Wraps that my podcast is in the top 5 of podcasts that you listen to. If you're one of those people, I appreciate you. If you're one of those people and you haven't sent me a screenshot of that, send me a screenshot of that. It brightens my day. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. I love you all. Gamble or bless. We are rounding the corner into the final stretch of the NFL regular season. It's time to get hot. Let's fucking go. Okay, let's go. Let's win some money. I'll be back next week for the Week 15 edition of the Road to 272. Gambler, bless.